My name is Famlala Coker. I am a Nigerian American metalsmith, and currently I live in New Paltz, New York. I'm getting my MFA in metal at SUNY New Paltz, and I'm in my apartment right now, wearing my big glasses and my one of my favorite sweaters, and behind me I have my plants and a shoe rack and some gemstones that I picked up from Tucson. I have a shelf of metal that is actually kind of empty right now, so it's not really doing anything.
My name is Annie Cole Arthur. I am a 27-year-old cis white female. I got a short brown haircut, and I'm rocking my Society of Inclusive Blacksmiths t-shirt. I'm sitting in my kitchen and doing a little interview.
Hi, I'm Marcelo Ferreira Gustafsson. I'm sitting in my living room. I'm wearing a black blazer and a turtleneck, and I'm wearing two necklaces and earrings. I have a goatee and I'm brown.
I'm a woman. I have dark brown hair. I wear a metal necklace and a green sweatshirt. I'm in my living room, and the light is super soft, and there's plants and couch and living object around me. I'm white and darker skin tone, and I have a blue earring.
For me, queer metal is definitely uh, it's a spiritual thing for me. It's a way that I connect with my history and my heritage, the my culture. I come from a long line of people who have made things out of metal for centuries, and just knowing that is really powerful for me. I mean, being in the studio and just thinking about how I got into metal, where I just touched it and I instantly knew that that's what I wanted to work with for the rest of my life. I feel like I'd never had any experience like that before, especially with art, because I come from a family of artists. My dad's a painter, my mom's a textile artist, and two of my brothers are illustrators and animators. And so I was never very good at any of those things. And so I just felt like I was disconnected from my family. I was disconnected from actually being an artist, even though I knew I wanted to do that. Uh, and that moment when I touched the metal and knew that I wanted to do it for the rest of my life was really powerful. So if I can go into the studio and just melt some metal around and pour it into a mold and just feel that, like, feel those vibrations within me and connect with the material, then that's really what I'm excited about. um, I think just being aware of the intersection of queerness and metal makes it an even more powerful experience. So
So the intersection of queerness and metal um, is really kind of the intersection where I'm living my life. I find those two things to be my biggest defining factors. I'm a queer person and I'm a blacksmith. Um, and both of those things were hard things for me to find in life. Um, it took me a while to get to those things and to really find a place that I belonged. Um, and a lot of these things have only recently begun to really dig into and sink my teeth into. and a lot of that is due to the Society of Inclusive Blacksmiths, started by, I believe, 11 women in the United States, but I believe there were some international folks in there as well. And just really doing the work that needs to be done to open the door up, to take down the barriers for any minority or intersectionality of minorities, of folks who want to get into the world of metal. And I think that is, some of the most noble work. And I look at that and I think that, like, if I had had queer role models, if I had had, metalworking role models in my life, if I had had queer metalworking role models in my life, maybe it wouldn't have been so hard or so challenging or painful to figure out who it is that I am, the person that I'm living as today. Maybe it would have felt more like, being welcomed home, being embraced by a family, rather than like walking into the lion's den, not knowing what to expect, which is one of the really hard things. At least I can't speak to anything beyond my experience, but in America, walking into a blacksmithing conference, it's hard to find the women there who aren't just the wife of somebody, or, there to sell something or cook the food or clean up or whatever. It's hard to find other women or other queer people, or even just, people of color who are there and like are doing blacksmithing, doing metalworking. And it's something that I really feel like needs to be more visible. We're out here, we're doing the thing. And it shouldn't be this like special thing. I've had a lot of folks approach me, interview me, ask me all these questions about like, oh, like, what is it like being a woman working in a man's world? Or like, you're a young person working in an older man's world, all this stuff. And I'm just like, can't I just be a person who's good at what I'm doing? Like, does it matter what my genitalia is, what the color of my skin is, what my age is, what my body size and abilities are? None of it matters. Like, I am a human being and I'm making some cool shit out of metal. I'm making some cool stuff out of metal. And like, it's just one of those things of like, I don't want to be a good queer blacksmith. I don't want to be a good female blacksmith. I don't want to be a good young blacksmith. I don't want to be a good professional blacksmith. I don't want to be a good architectural blacksmith. I want to be a good blacksmith, period. Full stop. Like, there shouldn't be anything special about me because I am a female or because I'm queer or any of that. Like, nothing of that should be special. It should be normal and good. And, it shouldn't, when you Google blacksmith, the first thing you shouldn't see is like a burly man, topless, hammering some stuff. And like, why is that always what people think of? Can't you just imagine anyone just getting to work with metal, getting to shape metal, in any way, shape, or form, no matter what size it is, or whether they're producing something that's, a useful object or a sculpture, or, even something that gets thrown into the scrap pile. Like, there shouldn't be so much pressure on me as a female or as a queer person or as a young person or whatever to show up and feel like I have to prove myself, because I'm a hell of a lot better than a lot of those straight white boys out there. But those straight white boys don't feel like that they have to prove themselves, because they've got a leg up in the rest of society. They know what they're doing. And me, as this like tiny, I'm a skinny young little white dykey girl, like, that should be perfectly normal for me to be swinging hammers out there with the best of them. I mean, and that's what queer metal is to me, it's the normalizing of anybody, you know, queer people specifically, but you know, anybody of any minority or any intersection of minorities, like anybody can do this. Like, you know, to whatever degree, you know, there's natural talent involved, but like you can be bad at this and love it. And like that should be good and normal. And like, why are we all such assholes to each other? You know, that is what queer metal is. Queer metal is we can all do this and we can all love this, and that's what matters. Not about who's best or who's better or who's, you know, some special whatever token of minorities. Like we share a love of things, and like that's what matters.
To me, it's very clear that queer can be, what's queer to me might not be queer to someone else. It's very context based. And I think if we look at queer and materialism together, it's very much where is it not, and where could it be, kind of. I sometimes prefer to use the word animalistic or animally to define queer, as it's kind of a bit free from the boundary of physicality. It doesn't have the same physical connotations and direct body attachment. So for me, whenever something acts out of its own orbit or kind of spin around loosely from its own shoulder, it's kind of animalistic, or if you want to call it queer in a way.
That's a tough question. Not because of metal, I think because everything is queer, and then taking something so specific and trying to like point out what could be queer metal within it it's hard. But I think what I was thinking when I read it is how our expectation of materials, how they don't meet in many ways, in different ways, or they don't meet, or they are like not necessarily they fail or something, they just perform differently than what we expect them to perform. And I think if I see it in other people's work, I see it in the sense that we would assume metal would have a certain weight and physicality, and then a lot of the time picking up an object that is made out of metal would have a different material, different sense. And I'm interested in that. But actually what I'm more interested in is how both jewelry, but also objects that we know to be from metal because they need that material property, have maybe they offer another thing than what the function that we would expect them to offer. So I don't know, I've been thinking about this like word affordances lately, and thinking about how there is like this, you think, or you would say that it says that there is the false affordances, like what we would think something happened, but it wouldn't happen, and then it's like a failure. But I actually am interested in the failure of that. So I think maybe queer metal can be an exploration of that, how objects have more or different kind of function than what would we expect them to be, like how it could be in scale. Like I think a lot about spoons because I love making spoons, and they're such a iconic object, and we have such a specific expectation from it, and it relates to the body also, with the shape of like the hand, like in Hebrew, spoon and the palm of the hand is the same word also. So it's like I'm thinking about different changing the performance of the spoon, and that how that can be, how can that look, how can that affect what we think about the object, if the amount that the spoon can hold, that getting to kind of very specific or example, or like, you know, having a double or a triple or a two-sided spoon, or having spoon with holes that cannot hold things. So I guess those are specific, but I'm thinking about different performances from what we are so used to expect a specific performance from. And in metal, it's so like it's in our everyday, the keys, the cutlery, the, you know, the legs of the table, everything has to perform in a specific way. So how can those metal objects perform differently? How can jewelry perform different? Because became this like idea that metal and jewelry are like preciousness and something that lasts forever. So a deterioration of the material of the metal is also something that I can consider queerness, because we expect that to last, to overlast us, and that's a success. Like that would be part of the success of the object, but then it's maybe that's not what matters, or that's just another thing.
Yeah,